Chapter 17. The Forgotten Asteroid Facility's meeting room contrasted the desolation outside its doors. Designed with a minimalist approach, the room was clean and well-appointed, boasting an air of sophistication that one would expect from the upper echelon. The polished surface of the mahogany table reflected the soft glow of overhead recessed lighting, casting a warm hue over the high-backed ergonomic chairs lining either side. A sleek, state-of-the-art holographic display remained dormant on one wall, awaiting its next presentation. Ace said in his soothing voice as he floated above the table, "We must say we are quite impressed with your taste in clandestine meeting locations." Robert smirked as he sat down, swiveling casually in his chair. "Yeah. It's got a certain charm to it. Now, about this computer virus plan you mentioned earlier." Yes. We had thought about how best to disseminate the information we acquired. A meticulously crafted computer virus should do the trick." "Okay, I like that idea." Robert leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin in a pensive posture. "Give me the gist of it. How does this virus work?" Ace drifted back and forth slightly, as if considering the best way to present his explanation. "Well, without diving into the technical details, our little digital creation will infiltrate the targeted systems, replicating itself and spreading the information far and wide before anyone even realizes what's happening." "Sounds promising. So, what's the catch?" There's always a catch, isn't there?" Ace quipped, his tone tinged with dark humor. "The main issue is that we'll need to hard link into a Confederation-aligned world's infrastructure to upload the virus. Our current ship registration may become an issue after this operation." Robert's enthusiasm was tempered by reality. "Well, I guess every plan has its hiccups. We'll have to make it work." "Indeed," the orb emitted a soft chuckle. "When life hands you asteroids, one must simply mine for the resources within." Robert laughed at Ace's absurd analogy as he paced the conference room, the plush carpet softening his steps as he mulled over their recent findings. "All right, Ace." Frustration was evident in his voice. "I'm not thrilled that most of our intel is focused on the government's involvement. I get it. They're dirty, but what about people like Foreman? He's the one abducting people, specifically humans, that I might know, and I want it noted that I want him out of the picture." We understand your concerns. We have every intention of targeting Mr. Foreman as well." Robert was quelled for the moment. He wasn't used to these discussions, ones where people's lives were played with. It made Robert uneasy to converse about targeting with such finality. "So how do we release this virus? And how do we make sure it gets to the right people?" "An excellent inquiry." The AI rotated slightly in place. "Our plan requires us to head to any Confederation-aligned world and link to a public node in their infrastructure. From there, we will upload a simple file containing the virus. We recommend you take your new still-to-be-named ship to a satellite and spacewalk with us in tow to ensure the utmost security. This will enable us to interface directly with the system and start the process." "Spacewalk? You mean like actually going outside the ship while it's in space?" Ace's voice betrayed a hint of mischief. "We trust you'll find it quite the invigorating experience." "Right. Nothing like a little stroll through the void to get the blood pumping." "Indeed. Once connected to the satellite, we shall initiate the upload and allow our little digital masterpiece to work its magic. From there, it's a matter of sitting back and watching the fireworks, huh?" "Something like that," Ace said, his tone light despite the gravity of their mission. "But first, let us prepare for the spacewalk ahead. After all, one can't simply waltz into the cosmos without proper attire." "Your devious little creation will have a time delay, correct?" He tapped his fingers on the smooth surface of the conference table, making a rat-a-tat-tat. "We can't have it traced back to us too easily." Of course, Ace said, with an amused lilt in his voice. Our virus shall be as insidious as a whisper in the night. It'll spread like wildfire before anyone even knows what hit them. Robert smirked at Ace's theatrics. Good. That should buy us some time. I hope we've thought of everything. Our plan is as close to perfection as possible. Ace sounded remarkably smug. However, there is one rather crucial detail you must be made aware of. Our ship, still registered under the mining company's name, will probably come under scrutiny once the virus is unleashed. This may very well be one of the last times we can use it without acquiring a new beacon. Robert sighed, trying to tame his hair with his hand. Still, by then, the message will be out, right? The truth about Krestov, Foreman, the government, the complete operation. The impact of our digital revolution will be felt widely. Good. But I want to do more than expose Foreman. Robert clenched his fists. I want to take him down personally, tie the virus release mission to that goal. If I can help even a few people being preyed upon on Mool, I'll feel like I've made a difference. Very well. We shall combine both objectives into a decisive strike. Thanks, Ace. I can't turn a blind eye to what's happening on Mool, not after what we've seen. Those are people I know. They're the closest thing I have to a community. I can't sit by while a creature like Foreman is preying on them. Mool was Robert's home, and though he may have been exiled due to circumstances, he could still save some of its people. Taking out someone like the gangster would be a heroic act that Robert could do. Robert leaned back in his chair, scratching at the stubble on his chin. You know, I don't think we should stop at Mr. Foreman. The entire gang is guilty. They all know what they're doing is wrong. They all deserve to pay. Ah, so quick to appoint yourself judge, jury, and executioner. While it's true that the gang has done some reprehensible things, as far as our evidence shows, only Mr. Foreman is primarily responsible for human trafficking. Responsibility, responsibility. Robert waved a dismissive hand. I'm not the arbiter of truth, sure, but I've seen enough to know that these people are absolute trash heaps of beings. Rotten or not, it's important to remember that you cannot read minds. Perhaps the rest of the structure would collapse independently if you focused on taking down Mr. Foreman. Like toppling a deck of cards, huh? An apt analogy, Ace said. The gangs on Mool aren't as well structured or organized as those on other worlds. Our evidence suggests that Mr. Foreman's removal from the criminal underground wouldn't create a major power vacuum. He isn't a major player on Mool, merely a vile cog in the machine, one that you have had direct dealings with. All right, fine, Robert conceded, thinking about Pete and how Foreman was most likely responsible for the homeless man's sudden disappearance. We'll focus on taking down Foreman and hope that the rest crumbles along with him. Excellent decision, Ace praised, radiating a sense of satisfaction. Now, let's plan our attack on this vile cog and watch the machine grind to a halt. Ace, can we find my friend Pete in all this? Like, is there some manifest or something? Unfortunately, those abducting people aren't keeping the greatest of records of their victims. Ace's voice bore the weight of the responsibility they were about to undertake. Robert leaned back in his chair. The facility's executive conference room completely differed from the dingy underground tunnels he'd been crawling through earlier. Spotless glass windows stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing the endless space outside, peppered with distant stars. This room hinted at important decisions being made, with its plush leather chairs and polished mahogany table. Hey, Ace. Robert broke the silence that had settled between them. What about Commander Marcus Kane? Is he involved in all this? He frowned, recalling the last time. He'd seen Mr. Foreman being raided by the commander and several SLPS agents. How did Foreman even get out of jail? And are you sure he's available to be our target for this mission? An excellent inquiry, Ace said, his voice soothing. We have scoured the data, and there appears to be no connection between Mr. Foreman and Commander Kane. The AI's floating orb flickered as he accessed the information. However, the commander has taken a personal interest in your case. Robert raised an eyebrow. Oh? Do tell. Several news articles from Mool claim the commander thinks that one Mr. Robert Fannec is a suspect in numerous missing persons cases. The AI's tone turned wry. It would seem that running away from law enforcement and killing a few agents has not endeared you to them. Fantastic, Robert said, rubbing his temples. So not only am I trying to expose human trafficking, but I've also got a grudge-holding cop on my tail. His name sounds familiar now that I think about it. Commander Kane's fixation on you is certainly inconvenient, but it does not change our objective. We must focus on dismantling Mr. Foreman's operation and rescuing those who suffer at his hands. Right, Robert said, still thinking about Kane. He was sure he had heard this name before, but couldn't place it in his memory. So we take down Foreman and hope that everything else crumbles with him. Exactly. Wait, so you're telling me that Commander Kane wasn't involved in Foreman's release? I was certain that Commander Musclehead was framing me on purpose? Robert asked incredulously, leaning back in his chair with a baffled expression. Correct. The orb shimmered like an iridescent soap bubble. Our research indicates that Mr. Foreman was released on bail shortly after the commander's raid that you incidentally were caught up in. During that raid, no evidence was found of trafficking, just stolen medical pods. Shit, I know where I know the name Kane from. I think I dated his daughter in secondary school. Wonder if he's the type to carry his daughter's grudge. The databases we have been using are gradually being scrubbed clean of any pertinent information, Ace said, ignoring the outburst. Scrubbed? Like someone erasing all traces of it? Robert frowned, feeling a knot tighten around his chest. The implications were troubling. We fear that if we continue to access these sources, their owners may become aware of our activities and trace them back to us. Or they are already aware and have started that process. Either way, no more intelligence gathering for us. Fantastic, Robert said, running a hand through his hair. The last thing we need is more people trying to hunt us down. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, fingers drumming a staccato rhythm. So, what about the comm device I had on my last mission? Why did it stop working when I needed it most? Ace's orb flickered as he accessed the information. We've run extensive diagnostics on the device, and its functionality appears to be no issue. However, we cannot rule out external factors that may have caused the disruption. Great, Robert snorted, sarcasm dripping from his voice, like molten lava. So, what? It decided to take a coffee break while I was neck-deep in danger? An amusing metaphor, Ace said, unfazed by Robert's tone. But we believe there may be an external factor at play, perhaps some form of signal jamming. Jamming? Robert raised an eyebrow, his mind racing through the events of that fateful night. Wait a minute. I lost comms with you right after opening that room's door. Think that had something to do with it? An intriguing observation, Ace conceded, his orb flickering with a tinge of green. It is indeed possible that opening the door triggered some sort of interference or activated a device designed to disrupt communication signals. Of course. Robert ran a hand through his hair again. When I thought things couldn't get any more complicated. In this line of work, complexity is often the rule rather than the exception. Thanks for the pep talk, Coach, Robert grumbled, the corners of his mouth tugging upward despite his frustration. So, what now? How do we avoid getting cut off like that again? Preparation and vigilance are our best allies, Ace responded, his orb gliding through the air with a calm, measured grace. We must plan for the unexpected and adapt to the ever-changing landscape of our mission. Right, Robert nodded. Let's hope no more surprises are waiting for us behind closed doors. For now, let us focus on the tasks at hand. Our enemies may be formidable, but so are we. Damn straight, Robert said, his voice unwavering. Let's show them what we're made of. Robert and Ace shared a peaceful silence as they thought about their plans for the future. They pondered how to help those in need and how far they had come. Robert was lost in his thoughts for an unknown period, not disturbed by Ace's muted presence or the AI's background work. Dark shadows stretched across the vacated facility's executive conference room, as if trying to escape the dim glow of the few remaining functional overhead lights. The once pristine furnishings had grown dusty, their luxurious sheen dulled by years of neglect. But even in disrepair, their elegance shone through, a testament to the lavish tastes of those who had once held court within these walls. All right, so if there were some sort of jamming device, Robert's voice echoed off the high ceiling, then there wouldn't be any damage to our comms unit, right? Correct. The only way to confirm this theory would be through external sources, such as a news release or police report. We have been monitoring the news from Zorath, and there has been no mention of your break-in. Only the fire that took the entire warehouse out. No mention of sentience being found in the wreckage. We don't know if they moved the people in those pods, or if everything was covered up. Another mystery to add to the pile. Indeed, Ace concurred, his orb gliding smoothly through the murky air. The human's gaze focused on a particularly ominous crack in the ceiling. So, during my sneak and peek, I must have tripped a silent alarm that alerted the warehouse of my intrusion. Part of their security protocol must have included jamming all signals and cleansing the site. It's the only thing that makes sense. Your hypothesis is plausible. It would explain the sudden loss of communication between us. We should exercise caution, as our enemies will likely employ similar tactics in the future. Robert chuckled at the thought of stumbling into yet another carefully laid trap. You know, Ace, I'm starting to think I should have taken up a less hazardous hobby, like knitting. I bet knitters never get caught up in shit like this. But where would be the thrill of that? There is no turning back now. True. Might as well see it through to the end, right? Indeed. Ace's orb emanated a steady glow amidst the gathering shadows. Anyway, Robert tried to change the subject and gestured at the comm device. Can we call this thing something else? Comm devices is so bland. Everything is a comm device. This is special. Let's give it a special name. A matter of nomenclature. We do appreciate the importance of a proper name. How about the Fannec phone? Seriously? Robert rolled his eyes. You can do better than that. Very well, Ace conceded, with an air of mock solemnity. How about orbicular omniphonic transceiver, or the OOT, for short? OOT? Robert repeated incredulously. That sounds like something a toddler would say when they stub their toe. Fine, Ace huffed. We shall continue to brainstorm. For now, though, perhaps it's best to focus on more pressing matters. Right. Robert rubbed at the back of his neck. He shifted in his seat, feeling the weight of his unspoken concerns. I've been so focused on exposing the sentient trafficking I haven't had time to think about clearing my name. It's been almost 2 months, and my entire life revolves around taking down these criminals and government officials. When can I start working on getting my life back? Ace's orb dimmed for a second, as if in sympathy. Mr. Fannec, we understand your desire to return to normalcy. However, think about the victims. They don't even have a chance without you. Robert sighed, his leg bouncing up and down in rapid succession. The table's wood was smooth beneath his fingertips, polished to a high sheen despite years of disuse. He wondered who had sat in these chairs before him, plotting the course of interstellar commerce or negotiating high-stakes deals. Somehow it seemed a world away from the gritty, desperate mission that now consumed him. He focused on his friend Pete and how Pete may already be beyond help. Look, I know this is important. I get that. But at some point, I need to start thinking about my future too. I can't live the rest of my life as a fugitive, always looking over my shoulder and planning missions I have no business being a part of. Of course not, Ace said gently. But perhaps, by continuing our investigation and seeking justice for those who have been harmed, we will also find a way to clear your name in the process. If nothing else, it may help to shift public opinion in your favor. Robert nodded, knowing that Ace was right, but still feeling the sting of frustration. He had never asked for any of this. The danger, the intrigue, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. And yet, here he was, poised to take on a criminal empire with nothing more than his wits, his determination, and a snarky AI sidekick, although Robert would never call Ace a sidekick to his face. Mr. Fannec, we understand your desire to clear your name, but perhaps it's not as important as stopping these criminals. After all, you are still a free man, able to make choices and act on them. You're a floating orb with a smooth voice. No one's going to arrest you. Ace continued, undeterred. We feel compelled to remind you that you own an asteroid mining facility, de facto. Quite the asset, wouldn't you agree? You have a place to live, food in your system, and a purpose to work against. Robert snorted at the absurdity of his life. Yeah, I suppose it's not every day someone accidentally acquires a giant rock in space. Indeed. Now, let's get a plan together for the next mission.